What's up YouTube? Capital G here. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I hope you had an awesome and safe New Year. Got something a little different planned in today's video because I'm going to be going back to one of the other card games that I play called Duel. And for anyone looking for Yu-Gi-Oh, maybe you're a little disappointed. All I'm going to say is, hey man, there's only so many times a guy can have instant fusion and Nick Kalos resolved against them before, he starts losing his mind. So I haven't been loving the Tier 0 format as of late. So I decided to pick up one of my old favorites. And I've promoted the Domain card game numerous times in the past. And they've had some massive overhaul changes, including a name change. And now it looks so amazing. They've improved the interface, they've improved the graphics, they've touched up the colors, even the music. Honestly, the overall presentation is just absolutely fantastic, and I thought that I would share it with you guys. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to catch everyone up to speed and, give an opportunity for a new audience who might be looking for something different than tier element format right now. Now, I've always described Duel as chess meets Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses, the very unique PlayStation 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, which didn't play on a standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Field. So if you're familiar with that game, then obviously you will look at Duel and you'll be like, wow, this is really interesting. And it's kind of the same concept. It's very interesting. It's very unique. It's very high tension. And no two games ever play out the same because of the massive influence that the terrain makes. Now, personally, I always like to go through the tutorial. Obviously, I know how to play, but this is just a great visual demonstration for anyone interested in getting into this game. And for all of you who maybe have never heard of Duel, this is what you're going to need to walk through to learn all the basics, to learn the ropes, etc., etc. And the tutorial is not only intuitive and it's pretty simple. Duel is not a very complicated game, but it's also very quick. It tells you the basics, like how many cards you're going to be putting into your deck, what the object of the game is, which is to, basically take out your opponent's king. It's to destroy this creature. The king is generally going to be the strongest creature or one of the strongest creatures in your opponent's deck. This is my king just for demonstration purposes. It's the Taurus. It's one of the OGs from, domains. You can see how they move. I always remember this guy because he jumps over a space. Again, the board, very similar to chess, shows you how movements are, and you can never forget your king because they're denoted, like they're bordered with like the golden border, so it's always easy for you to find where your king is on the board or at any given time. There's also different like statuses. So if you look at this board, for instance, this king, the Taurus dragon, he gets 5+ damage when he's on the scorched terrain. So then you might want to just have, if you get like a favorable board or you have a board like this, like, hey, you know what? We need to keep this guy somewhere around here where he can do the most damage. Or I know if I'm, advancing on my opponent and they're on scorched, I'm going to be doing a lot of damage because I get that 5 bonus. Anyways, it shows you other basics, like how to play cards and how to play creatures from your hand. You summon them adjacent to the king. So if your opponent has a whole army up here, you can't just like summon something behind them. You have an infinite hand size in this game. However, this is a mana based game. So you can't just, it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you can just vomit everything on the field turn one. There's no FTKs or anything like that in Duel, which is something very awesome. It shows you how battle works. I believe we're just going to go ahead. We're going to take out this Inferno with a double attack. First, we attack it with the Skeleton Warrior, and then we KO it with our King, our Taurus. And this is just kind of a way to show you. Now, there will be certain things that you'll recognize, whether you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whether you play any other trading card game. If you're super into Magic, Pokemon, you'll recognize, mana from Magic. We don't have that in Yu-Gi-Oh! But other card games do. And there are other things like this Stardust Regent has an ability called Shoot. You can think of these just their effects, as you would any monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! That has an effect. And this card is rooted, which means it can't move around. However, it can deal damage and it can attack from a distance, which is really nice because if you put it behind a bunch of beaters, then you can definitely do some work. And again, just kind of shows you like the basics of the game, shows you other things that you're going to recognize from Yu-Gi-Oh! Trigger effects and continuous effects are both in here as well. We're going to, I believe, use a trigger effect from the Soul Collector, and we're going to try to get some mana because mana is Like, it's not necessary to play, but it's definitely necessary for like any coherent strategy. You can summon creatures that don't require any mana. Like this Soul Collector doesn't cost any mana, but if you really want to have like a coherent strategy. See, I just got 7 mana. You're going to require some mana replenishment or some way to generate it. See, the Spirit Warrior, which was in my hand, I couldn't play this if I didn't have any mana. So let's just go ahead and summon this. And keep in mind, where you summon your creatures, they're going to be summoned adjacent to your king, but just depending on where the terrain will determine whether you want to summon a creature here or here. Like, it's going to make a big difference. And I feel like that's one of the biggest elements. It's talking about the terrains right here: Crystal, Wasteland, Oasis, Scorch, Ocean, Swamp. The boards are crazy, and it is 100% never going to lead to 2 games being exactly the same. Even if you play 2 decks, like you're playing against your opponent and you guys are just running 5 games in a row with the same decks, the games are going to play out differently just because of the influence of the terrain, and you don't know what the terrain is going to be until you actually jump into a game. So it's just telling you about the different terrain. I believe right here we're going to get ourselves a buff. It's talking about my Skeleton Warrior and how this guy actually does more damage on anyone who's on a Wasteland terrain, and then this Inferno happens to be on Wasteland, so we end up getting even more damage than we generally would get. And then finally it talks about the continuous effects. This is the end of the tutorial. As I said, the tutorial just takes a few minutes. I mean, honestly, 10 minutes is more than enough for you to go through this multiple times. You might not get the full understanding or the full gravity of like the tempo and stuff, but you'll definitely get the basics. This is a continuous effect. Once again, we have these in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I believe the Ephemeral Garden gives us mana production when we end our turn. So even if for some reason we didn't have a natural way of generating mana, this would be, you could park a couple of these in your back line, get it away from where your opponent's creatures are, and then as you pass turns, you just get 5 mana each turn, and that can summon more powerful creatures, because you can have other creatures in your deck that rival your king, or you can even have more copies of your king. Well, they won't technically be your king, but it'll be the same monster, but you can't just summon them. This guy costs 59 mana, so he's a heavy hitter. This is not a card that you could just summon in your first turn and just start wailing on your opponent. So I love it because it feels like this game is really balanced. Now, the community is always like a highlight. You have the usual suspects. You have your YouTube, where you can go check out their videos. You can talk, or you can see how they've integrated some of the new strategies, some of the new cards and stuff that are coming out. Discord, probably my favorite way to communicate with players. I've become a very big fan of Discord over the last year or so. Or you can do my personal favorite and just watch some games. At any given time, you can just hop on and you can just watch games that are being played, and you guys can see this board is nothing like the board from the tutorial, and every single one of these are going to be different. I actually want to see, let's see if we can check out these. I think I've seen this guy before. I feel like he's in the bog structure. Yeah, he is in the bog structure. This is the bog dweller. So this is one of the kings, and then the other one is the scale crown. I have not seen this guy. Interesting that there's a king that has the shoot ability. Wow, that's really cool. Now, if you ever forgot any of the things that were covered in the tutorial and you just wanted a quick refresher, you can go to the rules page. I don't think the tutorial is something that takes long or anything like that, but maybe you just like reading, and it covers everything from battle to effects and movement. Talks about your deck size, the object of the game. It gives you the examples of the terrain. It even talks about the very unlikely scenario. And I personally have not seen this, even as I've spectated dozens of games. I've never seen it actually get to 100 actions without someone winning the game. Like, it's very unlikely, but that is a way that the game would be decided. So I think that this page can be very useful. Again, maybe you just forgot something that you wanted to touch up on, but darkduel.com is the website that you're going to be using. Just keep in mind that if you were on the previous Enter the Domains, If you registered for that, your login information from Enter the Domains will work here. Now, for any of you guys who really like opening packs and stuff like that, and this game is free to play. You can outright buy packs just like in Master Duel, or you can do what I do, is you can like use the coins. I was trying, like, I've been trying to pull Adriel, like he's a king, or like he was in the one of the old starter decks, and I really been trying to pull this guy, but I have not been able to get him yet, and he's the cover, but I'm gonna keep buying packs until I get him. So once again, the website is darkduel.com for anybody who wants to try something new. Maybe you're looking for a card game that doesn't have FTKs and doesn't have 15-minute long combo turns. Yeah, Dark Duel is not that type of game, and I like it. You know, it's fun, it's vibrant, it's amazing, it's also completely free to play, so you don't have to spend a dime on this to get the cards. You start out with the starter decks, and you know, even if you feel a little intimidated, you can just always go into the spectator mode and you can, you know, get a little sneak peek. Unfortunate this game actually ended. Maybe let's see the other one. Yeah, you can go into the spectator mode. You can see what type of gameplay, you know, what type of strategies people are cooking up. And as I said before, the games are never going to play out the same because the board is always different. The terrain is going to be different. I mean, look how much Scorch there is here. And I think we don't have any Oasis. So I've seen one king, Ra, and I know that he gets like a buff in regards to like Oasis, but he'd be out of luck here because there isn't any. And I've seen this Ignis guy. He seems like he's getting kind of popular. So looks like actually he gets a bonus on Scorched. Oh my goodness, this is like the perfect board for him because look how much Scorched there is. This is gonna be an amazing, and they both have them too. This is amazing. So yeah, I really think that you guys should check out Dark Duel. All the information will be in the description below for anybody who's interested. And again, maybe if you're just a little intimidated, come on here, sign up, and just do a little bit of spectating and then maybe dip your foot into the tutorial. Thank you guys for watching as always.